Hump's just replied saying fake news.
Okay, I think we're live.
Well, good evening.
Good evening, YouTube. Welcome to Doubles and Trebles. Trying something a little bit different. We've done the golf live, and we've done a couple of lives now. But normally we'd be looking ahead to a specific event. Not so much tonight. Just thought we'd open it up and call it a racing chat in general. Really, Adam's on hand here to answer any questions you might have. But we don't have much of a structure to this really. But we're just going to kind of run through Royal Ascot as a starting point. But if you do have any questions about the weekend, any fancies, any general racing questions, sure, Adam, don't mind answering them. But I best to just crack in with Ascot, I think. Smido, you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've been reminded myself the last couple of days just how much of a big week it is for me personally and many others. I absolutely love Royal Ascot. There's no YouTube hyperbole about that. It is the best week of the year for me. If the season ended the season could end next Saturday for all I care. Luckily it doesn't, and there's plenty of other good action to come. But yeah, just all over it. I must have done, don't tell the missus, I must have done 10 hours already this week looking at it. Hopefully it's not all in vain and we can turn some winners next week. But yeah, just really looking forward to it. The first 2 days have 5-day declarations in. So next Tuesday and next Wednesday, the 5-day declarations are in. Now, I usually don't get carried away at 5-day decks, but with so many group races or so many non-handicap races at Royal Ascot, which is the majority, the likely long-term targets, etc., and the decks hopefully won't change much from now, from the 5-day stage to the final stage. So we did our preview video 2 or 3 weeks ago, where we was quite speculative in terms of the fields. They have started to take shape now. For example,
certainly Tuesday and Wednesday we've got the decks in, haven't we? So we've got a lot more of a firm idea of what's going on. I'm going to chuck you straight in with the Coventry in a minute, but we have had a first message in the chat from Brendan Smith. Brendan's in the house. Good evening, Doubles and Trebles. Good evening, Brendan. Very good to have you on board. And if anyone else is watching and is thinking, shall I get involved in this chat box? Please do. Makes our life a lot easier if you contribute. Gives us something to actually talk about rather than just rambling on through races. But yeah, I think Smido did stick our early Royal Ascot preview link in there. So after this, if you get your appetite wet for Ascot and you want to take in a little bit more, bear in mind we did film that a few weeks ago now, so a few prices will have changed, but the bare research is still there. Anyway, let's crack straight on with the Coventry. I'm going to chuck you in. So I'll give you a little market check on where we're at actually before I go too much further. So am I correct?
We didn't cover in the first video, Primeman, because we only covered the 8. When I say only, we covered the 8 Group 1s in our first preview. Coventry, of course, is a Group 2.
Yeah, so this is actually a fresh first look at this race, and we've got Coffee Maker in there. I hope I'm saying that right, 3-1 Fav. And then a bit of a gap down to what is quite a tightly bunched rest of the field. Masetto in at 6, Gisborne is 7, Cadamosto 9, the Acropolis 10. A bit of blue for Ebro River today. That's a general 9 shot. One very unreputable supplier is still 10, so I would say 9 across the board there. Dabab is 12, Tolstoy 16, and it's 20s bar. So thoughts on the Coventry, please?
I've surprised myself a little bit, really, Pie Man, because I looked at this race properly for the first time today, and I wasn't expecting to see a horse called Dabab, who you've mentioned, be as big as 14-1. I know you've just quoted it at 12. It might have been trimmed a bit. I've not backed it yet. I wish I had. I would definitely be really interested in Dabab at this stage. I had a couple of texts about this horse last week. It won a maiden at Leicester really well for John and Thady Gosden. And I was expecting to open this market, having not really looked before. And I think it's only been open a couple of days, the Coventry, and see this horse at 5-6-1-ish favourite. I knew the Ward horse was favourite. But yeah, 14 or 12-1, Dabab, I mean, achieved the RPR Racing Post rating he achieved on debut was 92. And that 92 is comfortably more than any other runner in this race. There's currently 29 entered in the Coventry. They won't all run, obviously. But of all 29 runners, on debut, they achieved an RPR, obviously, each. And Dabab at 92 was the best RPR by some distance compared to the others that achieved what they achieved on debut. Now, Some of the others have ran 2 or even 3 times since and have gone on to achieve better RPRs than De Barbe, don't get me wrong. But for a debut, that's a pretty lofty performance. This will only be his second start, 2 weeks after his first. So he's got to turn it around and back it up. But it does remind me of Gosden. Gosden won this race in 2018 with a horse called Calix. Very good horse. He went on to win the Coventry on his second start 10 days after his debut for Gosden. I think he got an RPR on debut of 100, and there's very, very few horses that do that. So Calix on debut was clearly better than De Barbe, and he might turn out to be better in general. But it just reminded me of that. So Gosden's not scared of turning him round. He's not got many 2-year-old runners or fancies next week, Gosden, really, for a stable of his size, multiple-time UK champion trainer. But like I say, does remind me of Calix. Calix went off 2-1 for the Coventry and won well. I'm not saying De Barbe is going to go off 2-1 or anywhere near that, but 14-1 feels too big. Like I say, I was aware of the horse and I saw a clip of his run on debut, but and I wasn't expecting to be talking about him in too much detail tonight. But it's just the price, and I say this all the time: everything's about the price. And if you can get 12-1, I'll be quite interested in that. Anti-post is There's no real point in betting anti-post now. You might as well just wait till Sunday when the final field's there, and he might be, I don't know, 8-1 or something like that when there's a few runners come out. But he's certainly of interest. I'll quickly touch on the others. That Coffee Maker is the Ward hype horse. There's always one. He talks very, very bullishly, as American sports personalities tend to do. He gives a stable tour and a couple of interviews in the lead up to Royal Ascot every year. And this year, the one that the bookies and the punters have copped onto is Coffee Maker, which is a filly in the Coventry. So it's normally a race dominated by males or competed for by males, but it is open to the female horses as well. So that's a statement in itself. I've stolen a Wesley Ward fact from the excellent Kevin Blake, who did an At the Races preview live last night. They didn't quite get as many viewers as what we do, Pineman. But Wesley Ward, the American trainer, has had 8 2-year-old winners at Royal Ascot, which is very impressive in his career. I think he first came over about 11 years ago. All 8 of those juvenile winners have been over 5 furlongs. This is over 6 furlongs. So he's tried a 6-furlong race with a 2-year-old 18 times, and he's yet to win any 2-year-old race over 6 furlongs. The Coventry's over 6. There's a question mark there. But he's you wouldn't write him off, and he has talked big up about this Coffee Maker. There's a 150-1 winner last year, but fancied horses do tend to do well. Considering it's usually a pretty big field, definitely always double figures in this race. 5 of the last 10 favourites have won, so that's a pretty good strike rate for the market leader. It's always difficult to be confident on a selection, given that most of them are making their 3rd or 4th career starts. My selection is actually making his 2nd career start, so always a little bit tricky. A couple I would give a mention to that actually we've got form with each other. Berkshire Shadow for Andrew Baldwin and Gisborne for Richard Hannon. The Shadow beat Gisborne on debut. Yet Gisborne is 7-1 and Berkshire Shadow is 20-1. So that's that might be
20 in a place, 20 in a place, 16's beyond that.
Yeah, so Gisborne clearly, as the Richard Hannon horses tend to do, came on for the debut experience and won very well next time at Newbury again by 6 lengths. So that's one to keep an eye on. And the last one I would nod to, Pineman. I don't want to get bogged down in each of the 35 races or however many there is. If the market was to stay as it is now and the price is as it is now, and the race was this tomorrow morning, I would happily back Masetto. He's one of the few in the field with actual group level form. He was 2nd in a Group 3 last time. He was unlucky in that. An eye catcher, plenty have spotted him. He's 2nd favourite in the market. You wouldn't want it rattling quick though, but he's 6-1 and he's about second favourite in the market, Masetto. But De Barbe would be most interesting now. I've not backed him yet. I won't be backing him anti-post. I'll probably back him on the day. 8 or 10-1 will do me fine.
Well, there you go then. And I'll just give you one more recap of that market for those who've joined us late, because the chat box has started to pop off a little bit. We've got a Coffee Maker, obviously. This is the Coventry that we're running through here. 3-1 Masetto is a general. 6-1 Gisborne, 7. Cadamosto, 8. The Acropolis, 10. Ebro River, just a quick mention for that one. Stringer Blue, any insight there?
Yeah, he's trained by Hugo Palmer. I think he's had 4 starts so far. He's won a decent try, one of the early, I think it's called the National Stakes, one of the early juvenile decent races at Sandown. I think that's a listed event going off the top of my head. But then those efforts have been over 5 furlongs. This is a step up to 6. is by Galileo Gold, who won a classic for Hugo Palmer. Actually, he won the 2000 Guineas. So yeah, has the form in the book, but I think there's some other horses that could progress past him, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. I will just give some shout outs to those in the chat box. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We've got Stephen Lord says prettiest is his nap. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's an Aidan O'Brien 2-year-old filly who was pretty impressive. She's a Debarwi out of an Alice Springs, which I'm going off the top of my head here. I hope you're impressed.
Yeah, I am impressed.
I think she'll be one of the leading contenders in one of the fillies races, like the Queen Mary or something like that. So possibly one to come in to later in the week. But the 5-day decks are not out for that race as yet, I don't think.
Yeah, Andy Jones mentions that Debab is going to be ridden by Rab Havlin and Tolstoy for Frankie. Any thoughts on that?
I mean, that's far from confirmed. Yeah, far from confirmed. But yeah, wouldn't surprise. I don't really. It doesn't. I don't care. Don't bother me. Don't bother me.
Don't care. Other shout out in the chat. We've got Andy Jones in here. Brendan Smith, Stephen Derbyshire is in the house asking for tips on Hamilton on Wednesday.
I'll be talking about the Hamilton form, Pieman, because there's a horse I'll come up. My best bet of the week has Hamilton form.
There you go. Andy Humphrey also in the house, and Ben Spedding with a little mention of Raul de Silva there. Good to have you on board, Ben. Yeah, Raul de Silva, the forgotten man in many ways. Bit of a personal joke there, so don't be too confused on that one. I will just give a little bit of a rewind. I used to have a share in a horse which was once, shall we say, not ridden to its full potential by Raul de Silva. But that's probably a one for another video. But yeah, we'll move it on. Have you got any particular race you want to dive into here, Smido?
Could knock on to the Queen Anne. I know that's a race we mentioned, but I have developed a fancy since our first video, Pieman, if you wanted me to touch on that. Well, since our first video, the lock-in has taken place, which is normally the key UK, not trial, but lead-in race. It's a Group 1 at Newbury, as we know. Easily won by Palace Pier, very impressive, as we predicted, really. And I think Palace Pier at the time of our last recording was odds against, and we said he could easily go and win at Newbury and then be odds on for this. Well, he is. I mean, it didn't take a genius to work that out, but he's anywhere up to one to two at the moment. My only question mark about Palace Pier, as we always do look to take on the favourites, will be fast ground. He hasn't touched fast ground since his debut, but realistically, we are playing for places, Pieman, as we were in the Lock-in at Newbury.
I'll just stop you there. I'll just give you a rundown of this market for a bit of context. Anyone who hasn't got it in front of them. So we've currently got Palace Pier. I'm going to ignore one supplier who's just basically completely ruined the odds checker page. But Palace Pier 4-9, General Fav. Order of Australia is there at 6 with a couple of suppliers, and then we get a few differences in opinion, but Lope Fernandez is a General 9. We've got Tilsit in there at 14, Top Rank 20, Prince Age is 25 with Regal Reality, and then it's name your price after that, really. So it does look like we're playing for places with Palace Pier. You would say that?
Yeah, but I think that playing for places is quite an interesting little game that you're going to be playing with yourself, because away from the favourite, 6 of the next 7 in the market that you've just quoted, Pieman, are split by £3 on Racing Post ratings. It was a similar story in the Lock-in itself, so it is open for the place money. A couple of horses we didn't really mention first time round. Lord Glitters loves Ascot, and for me was not an eye catcher as in unlucky and was finishing late. I just thought he was behind Palace Pier, was one that caught the eye. Lord Glitters, I thought he ran a really perfectly good race at Newbury. He's a big price for this. He's 25-ish. Has won this race before. It was a shock. Has been second in this race before. And in 37 career starts, 3 of his 6 best performances have been at Ascot. He loves the place, Pieman. He absolutely loves it. I'm no pace expert by any means, as Lee Jones nicely highlighted to the world in our last live video. But there doesn't look to be many willing front runners in this race. So, and you've got an odds-on favourite, so the jockeys might just wait and see what Frankie does on Palace Pier and make it difficult for him and not make the pace. I think if there is no pace on, I think that'll play right into the hands of Lord Glitters to pick up the pieces late on. So he would be. I've not backed him, but I will do on the day at 20-1 or bigger, or even 16s. I'm really quite interested in Lord Glitters. I don't like when people say you're playing for places. I don't like, because I think Palace Pier will win and should win, obviously. I like playing in the without the favourite market.
I was going to say, would you go in the without market?
Yeah, I prefer to play that, because if you're playing in the win market each way, half of your stake is gone because you're backing it to win with half of your stake. Nothing's going to win. I mean, something quite serious has got to happen for Palace Pier not to win this race. So, I would rather play in the without favourite market.
Well, do you think Palace Pier goes off shorter than the 4-9 currently available?
No. I think that's about right. I think I'm not being clever, but I texted the lads over the weekend. I had a bit of a half an hour at Epsom, and I was looking at the anti-post markets, and I said that there's a couple of them in the chat will back me up. I said 8-13 Palace Pier is not short enough, and it is shorter now. I'm not being clever. I've not backed him, but it was just an observation at the time. Lope Fernandez. I just can't have him. Cannot have Lope Fernandez. He's not good enough to win a straight mile Group 1 like this. I've said this before. The Lockinge, he was crap in the Lockinge, and I don't think he'll be good enough again. Order of Australia, a horse we didn't really mention last time, was a fluke basically in winning the Breeders' Cup at like 66-1, winning at the Breeders' Cup. Sorry, and he didn't back it up in a weaker race at Shartin after that. Plus, he was on the drugs in America. It's going to be his first race this year at Ascot. Can't have him. Tilsit, we did mention on our previous video. I thought he might go for the Lockinge. I was hoping he would. He didn't actually. He went for a Group 1 in France over 9 furlongs. Battled on really well, really well. He only got beaten neck over 9.5 furlongs. Might want further in time, so I won't really. He's 14-1. I prefer to back Lord Glitters. And Top Rank, we've mentioned, wants softer ground. Simple as that. I wouldn't back him. He might not even run next week. He's on record. Top Rank wants softer ground, and it ain't going to be soft at Ascot on Tuesday.
Yeah, so just we've got a couple more in the chat box. Jack Stevens is in, says, love the channel, lads. Good to have you on, Jack. Pleased to hear it. And Brutus the Great says, evening, gents. Gold Cup, Strad, surely not. Stradivarius in the Gold Cup. Any thoughts on that, Smido?
Brutus, thanks for coming along. I can read you my notes, what it says. I wish I could screen share, but I'll read you my notes for the 3 races at Ascot that have this comment, and the Gold Cup's one of them. No interest, full stop. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I did suspect we were going that way, just judging by the preview. But be interested to hear anyone else's thoughts in the chat box on the Gold Cup if you do have a few more thoughts than Smido. But Brutus also come in again and said, what about time bets? Quick ground, not too hot with cloud and a breeze down the mile. Fresh horses, will it be quick times? And Andy Hump also asks you about distance bets.
Distances bets don't really interest me because jockeys can ease down and stuff like that. I'm not really interested in that. Time bets.
What about course records?
Oh, I've been there before. There's actually a tweet. I'll dig out my. You know about this, don't you? I'll dig out.
I remember it. I remember it.
There was one year. Yeah. I don't know which. Where in the Queen Anne and the Coventry, the record time went on the same day, and back-to-back races. The record time for those races went, and someone put up a special. For the record to go in the King Standard Racing, which Batash ran in but didn't win. Blue Point won it. Anyway, the record was there was like 0.1 seconds behind the record or something like that. So that lovely hard luck story.
I remember it. It was quite a good price that as well, I think.
Yeah, it was like 10-1 or something. Man.
Yeah. It would have been about 2017, I think.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah, been on the wrong end of them.
Yeah. No, they're not for me either. But I mean,
I've got a question for the chat though, Palmer.
Yeah, go on by all means. Let's turn it back.
In the King Stand, if you can get Oddschecker up, at what price does Batash become a bet? I asked this question of a couple of the guys in the chat yesterday. I've never really got Batash right. I don't think I've ever backed him. I just always tried to take him on because I thought he misbehaved. But he hasn't done that for a long time now. But he's coming back off a quite a serious injury. But for an example, Batash, this will be the 4th year running he's ran in this race. He was 9-4 in 2018. That wasn't favourite. It was 9-4 in 2018, was second to Blue Point by a short distance. He was 2-1 in 2019. He was second again to Blue Point. He was 5-6 last year and won by over 2 lengths. I don't think this year's field is any better or worse than last year, and he's in the region of 2-1 Pieman. So at what stage does Batash become a bet? That's the question to the chat. And while we wait for some answers, Pieman, I'll just touch on Winter Power, which looks to go off second favourite for this race. He's kind of the up-and-comer. He's a 3-year-old, very much impressed on his last 3 starts. Very much so at York. He was really, really impressive. Bullet out of a gun, never looked back, won by a good distance. He would certainly get some support, Winter Power, because due to the weight for age scale, he carries £10 less than Batash. With the sex allowance and the age allowance. But I always have a word of caution on these 3-year-olds stepping up to face the big boys in the sprint division. I've got a long-standing and very much unproven opinion that the biggest leap between 3-year-old only racers and open company, which is, all age, the biggest leap is in the sprinting division. I think it's I think the biggest gap between the 3-year-old quality and the all age quality is in the sprint division, mainly because sprinters are often older, like Batash is 7 now. They're more experienced professionals. They're really tuned up. You'll see them in the paddock. They're rearing to go because they are, bundles of energy. They're literally, the gates open, they're flat out and go for 5 furlongs. So they're really experienced professionals. Don't mess about beforehand. Don't very often miss the break. Because obviously you can't afford to do that over 5 furlongs. So, and the second part of that is 3-year-old sprint racers are often full of horses that aren't sprinters or have only recently been converted to sprinters because they're not good enough over longer trips. I'm not saying these points lend themselves to Winter Power as an individual, but just generally, I'm always very cautious about 3-year-olds. Particularly, it's quite early in the season. This is June. 3-year-olds jumping in with the older sprinters. It's not for me. But look, Winter Power's got as good a chance as any, and it's probably the, because she's unexposed and she carries that less weight. But like I say, away from Winter Power, I don't think this race is very deep, to be honest. If Batash is, and if he's back to what the form he was last season, which wasn't his best ever form, but if he's back to that form of last season, I think he'd just win again because the opposition isn't any better than last season in my eye.
Batash there at 2-1, and then you've only actually got 2 other horses in single figures, Winter Power and Oxted, and then you're pretty much getting up to tens. I mean, well, Liberty Beach 8s, but then it's 10s on from there. So it's not the most competitive race, is it? Beyond the front 2, 3.
Yeah. Oxted's dropping back down from 6 furlongs, won a Group 1 July Cup last year. Stephen Derbyshire really likes Oxted, so look out for the smart money from SD.
Yeah, there you go. Well, we've had some more comments in the chat. Lee Jones says, Smido taught me everything I know. And he confirms that was indeed Lady Aurelia 8-1 King's Stand. That story we were discussing earlier. Andy Jones says you have more sub-stories than EastEnders. Jeremy Hernandez suggests that 5-2 would be the price to back Batash. Not got too much further to go for that if you're waiting for that, Jeremy. Brutus the Great says 7 furlongs under 1 minute 10, got to happen. And Brendan Smith asks, does the quick ground not put you off Batash after the injury?
It could do. He doesn't normally have a problem with quick ground before his injury, but I'm no expert. But like I was listening to that at the Racers podcast last night, and Kevin Blake was emphasising that it's quite a serious injury. But I'm no expert. It's one of those though, because he is a gelding and he's 7 years old now, and he's done it all before. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but it's not catastrophic if Batash goes here and gets beat, because he's still going to turn out, for the rest of the season. Maybe they'll have one eye on the injury and take it easy from him. But to be honest, this Royal Ascot King's Stand, it's not the type of race that you just go for, just for a day out to see if you're fit enough. He's either fit or he's not. Hopefully he runs, because he is an exciting horse. It's just one that I've never really got right. I've tried to take him on and failed many times, and I don't think I've ever backed him to win either. So next week will be all change.
Well, there you go. Yeah, first time for everything. Brutus also asks who you think for the champion jockey for the week for the festival.
Well, Frank is the obvious, isn't he?
Is there a market up for that yet?
There will probably be. It won't be now. Maybe Monday.
I was going to say it seems like a nearer the time market.
Yeah, I've been at Royal Ascot before, Pineman, where Ryan Moore's rid 9 winners in the week, or 11, or something ridiculous. It's just Frankie ridden 4 winners in a day a couple of years ago. Jim can get on a run. Oisin Murphy's in decent form, as we know. But there's all the handicaps to look out for as well. Some of which the likes of Frankie and Ryan may not ride in. So it's not really a market that I usually get involved in personally.
Well, I mean, if there's any races that anyone in the chat would like us to take a closer look at, then do fire your requests in and can have a look through.
I see Andy Jones there, the Yank horse in the King's Stand. I think that's called Extravagant Kid, ran at Meydan. And I remember from that day, it was a bit of a regret of mine. Ryan Moore on his blog talked up Extravagant Kid, even though he'd not ridden him before, and he won at 12-1. And I thought, I probably should have backed that, but I didn't. Meydan form, Pineman. What do we say?
Yeah, Extravagant Kid 10 there for the King's Stand as things stand. So, I'm just going to wait and see if anyone in the chat does have any races in particular that they want to dive on, because we can pretty much
one, Pineman.
Go wherever. Go on. Where do you want to go?
Commonwealth Cup. Cup. is on the Friday.
Yeah, I could take you to
We're not at the 5-day stage yet, but I am all over Dragon Symbol. He would be.
Let me just run down the market before you go off on one. Campanelle 5-1 leads the way. Suez 11-2. Dragon Symbol, there it is, 8-1, I think. And Blue, to be fair, someone agrees with you. Supremacy 17-2, and then we're getting down to Diligent Harry at 12, Measure of Magic 14, and it's 16 bar from there. So go on then, Dragon Symbol.
All over Dragon Symbol. Really, really like
this.
Is
this best bet of the week territory?
Yeah. At this stage, definitely, 100%. I just think that it's been impressive this year. Didn't run at 2. He's had 5 starts this year to his name already, 4 wins and a second. The second came on bad ground at Haydock a couple of weeks ago in a known trial for this race, Sandy Lane, I think it's called. That's got good form into this race traditionally. He's 8-1. I just think that at Haydock, he had to race on his own. If you watch the race again, he was drawn closest to the stand side rail. He wasn't detached, Pieman, but he certainly didn't have any company over there. He raced in his own lane with no company all the way up the straight. Like I say, it was bad ground. This horse is a swift mover. You can see his action. He definitely prefers faster ground. And he got beat, I think, a nose or a head in the end. But 2 strides later, Pieman, he would, if the finish line was 2 strides away, further away, he would have won the race. It's as simple as that. He didn't enjoy the ground. And before that, he won easily at Hamilton. Against some half decent. There wasn't brilliant, don't get me wrong, but some half decent yardsticks. He scooted clear of them. That was on better ground. I think a stiff 6 furlong at Ascot is perfect for him. He's really quite a strong fancy of mine. Campanelle, you mentioned at the top of the market, has the best form in the race for Wesley Ward, but that form all came at 2. Is Campanelle, she's not been seen this year. Won at Royal Ascot last year and a Group 1 winner last year in France, in the Mornay, I think it was, yet to race this year. I always question these Wes Ward American 3-year-old types because the question, they come over, as we alluded to on the earlier video, they come over as massive. We mentioned, I think, Acapulco and Lady Aurelia and horses like that. They come over walking around the paddock looking like them, and they're just bred and trained differently, and they are often just simply physically bigger and stronger than their counterparts as 2-year-olds. I always question whether the 3-year-olds have caught up over the winter, if you like. I'm happy to take her on, as I am all Wes Ward horses. No doubt Andy Humphrey will be in the comments about Sueza, looking set to come over from France. Wildly impressive last time in a French Group 3. Is that form any good? We don't know yet. And this will be a first try on anything quicker than soft, so that's always a big worry for the French horses that are used to riding on softer ground.
There's the one that's nearest your selection in the market, Supremacy. Brendan Smith says Supremacy needs cut in the ground, can't see it turning up on fast ground. So that could be one. That could be one with a line through it as well, which would be another advantage for your selection.
Yeah, had really good form as a 2-year-old. Supremacy won the Group 1 Middle Park Stakes and was terrible in his reappearance this year at Ascot. Really very bad. Andy Jones, no doubt, is going to say about Sacred in the chat. Andy pointed this one out to me the other day.
It's just come in as you said it.
Yeah.
Sacred last off the bridle in the Commonwealth.
Yeah, she was pretty impressive. First time up this season. Won the Nell Gwyn at Newmarket. Clearly did not stay the 1,000 guineas trip as we knew beforehand. Didn't actually get the clearest to run. She had to kind of, weave her way through a bit of traffic on that day. Would have to definitely improve. She's not shown form good enough to win this race as yet. But the same can be said about Dragon Symbol and others. Would need to definitely improve. But I think she's 25 to 1 Sacred. I think it's her only entry of the week. Definitely an attractive each way price.
Lee Jones mentions one at a massive price. Any thoughts on Method? I think that's the Martin Mead horse, isn't it?
Yeah, so Method, that was
25 to 1. Method.
Yeah, burst onto the scene last year. I think at Doncaster, backed it up at Newbury in a good race, then fell off. I think he ran in the Middle Park, and season kind of fell to bits. But he ran in that Dragon Symbol race at Haydock on soft ground. Wouldn't have liked that, but he showed all right, Pieman. He would have been a shortish price in running. It's a bit of a forgotten horse, Method. Clearly talented. Is he good enough? And is he reliable enough? They're the 2 questions over him.
It's a very interesting market, isn't it, really? Always good to hear thoughts from the chat as well. Stiff 6 furlong's going to be perfect for her, according to Lee Jones. Brendan asks whether you and Andy Jones do any work. It's a very fair question.
Well, it depends who's listening, so I'll plead the fifth on that one.
Yeah, Lee Jones says the saddle slipped, and Brendan says Method ran a cracker at Haydock, wasn't fit. So, yeah, plenty of support for Method in the chat at a massive price, 25 to 1. Love to hear it.
Did run a good race, yeah.
Yeah, but, I mean, we can look at more Ascot races. We've probably got another 10, 15 minutes in, as I would say, on this particular stream. But anything for the weekend? I know you didn't want to do a weekend video. You weren't particularly keen on this weekend's racing.
Yeah, I think there's 8 races on ITV this weekend. I mean, it is a bit like before the Lord Mayor show. Yeah, there's 8 races on ITV this weekend, and 6 of them come from either York or Chester. So regular viewers will know my thoughts towards those 2 venues.
We could put a line through them too, I think, can't we?
From a punting perspective, there's a couple.
Where are the other 2 from? Sandown?
Sandown, couple of listed races from there. I might have a look. I've not done so yet, but I do have a tracker runner tomorrow, Pieman, and I do quite fancy this.
Please do share with us. Tracker runners always welcome on this channel.
Right. There's a tracker runner going at Sandown tomorrow. They also race on Friday. Hopefully you can get the prices up for the 210 at Sandown, Pieman. While you're doing that, I'll tell you why it's a good bet, Melody of Life.
Certainly can. 210.
Melody of Life has got to be a better than a 77 rated horse. It just has to be, if you ask me. He had no chance from a wide draw at Haydock last time. I thought he would have gone close if he had a better draw. It was a decent enough race as well. And then the time before that, he missed the start quite badly at Chester. Ran okay, but didn't get close to winning due to missing the break. And then before that, he ran in the Esher Cup at Sandown, which is, he got nowhere near winning it, but it's a very good barometer. Esher Cup, you have to be a good horse to even run in that, never mind content to win it. So Andrew Balding obviously clearly thinks a little bit of him, given he started there for the season. I just think he's got to be better than 77 Pieman out of Dark Angel. He's half brother to a Group 2 winner called Happy Power that a few of it in the chat will know of. I just think he's a winner waiting to happen off this mark. I think he was about 6 to 1-ish earlier. Have you got prices there, Pieman?
Yeah, I have. You've got 9 to 2. One's come out, unfortunately. Military Man's come out. So we've got currently, as things stand, we've got the Whipmaster 11 to 4. We've got Shove H-Penny King and Melody of Life both in there at 9 to 2, with Dashing Dick 6 to 1. Mutarafek, not one to do on the live stream, that one. 7s, and Oa Starlight is 10s, and then it's 12s bar. So yeah, 9 to 2. I mean, I don't know, you could get a bit bigger. The market looks like it's still maybe correcting itself a little bit.
Yeah, I just think he's got to be better than the 77 rated horse. I really do.
Well, there's one for
let's get back to Royal Ascot.
Yeah, it's 210 tomorrow. There's a tracker runner for you at Sandown. Melody of Life, one to keep an eye on. But let's go back to Royal Ascot. Lee Jones asked whether we can chat about the Windsor Castle. We certainly can. I'll just get the market up. But Smither, your thoughts on the Windsor Castle? Right.
Well, I've not got that far yet. In my detailed analysis, there's some that are double entered. Like Cadamosto is also a few of these are also entered in the Coventry. So this is for the male horses. This is over 5 furlongs. Coventry's over 6. A Wesward, another Wesward hot pot leads the market currently in Ruthin, Brewster, 4 to 1.
Ruthin 4 and it's 10s bar, isn't it? Basically.
Yeah. Well, Ruthin won at Keeneland by 6 lengths, so he's the favourite. But as always, I take on these Wesley Ward horses. But no, the short answer is I've not gone into it very deep as yet. Secret Strength. I just fear that this horse is going to have a belter of a season now for Richard Hannon. Richard Hannon did a stable tour at the start of the season, put this horse up as one to watch. I backed it first time, 5 to 2, went off 11 to 8 second. What wasn't unlucky, it just got beat by a good horse. Backed it second time, 4 to 1, no worse, it was 4th. And then last time I left it alone at Musselburgh. When I say left it alone, I think it ran on Saturday. I was at Epsom. I didn't even know it was running. He sent up one all the way up to Musselburgh, this Secret Strength, and it won at 9 to 2. So I fear that horse is going to go on a run now without my money on.
Secret Strength, really... 14. Right, as are many horses in this current market, I'm afraid.
Yeah, so the answer into the question is I'll be waiting for final decks.
You'd be quite right to as well.
Given that there's 30 odd runners actually currently.
Well, and the rest, there might actually be more than that still entered.
46 runners entered. Yeah. Thanks for that, Lee. Cheers,
yeah. Well, Silk's Pass has been slashed today by a couple of suppliers, so read into that what you will. 33 into 16. But yeah, I think that's one that's going to develop as we get the final decks, which will be 5-day decks for that will be tomorrow.
No, we've had the 5 days. We'll just have to wait for.
Of course we are. Yeah,
for the 48.
Yeah,
so we'll
this is after the 5 days. Gee.
Yeah, Lee's throwing me another curve.
Still got the 46 in. Yeah.
I think last week Lee asked me about what I thought the pace setup would be in the Coronation Cup. I didn't have a clue, and now he's asking me about the Windsor Castle, and I don't have a clue. So yeah.
Well, this is what happens when you put yourself out there to be shot at,
Yeah.
Well, look, if there's any other particular questions that anyone's got, just racing in general, this would be a good time to, if you've got any topics that you just want to put out there to discuss. But yeah,
I was asked about the coronation. I can do that.
Okay, yeah. I mean, have you paid him for that one? Have you?
No, actually not. So the coronation pie man. For those
Snow Lantern and Primo Bacchio is mentioned.
Yeah. So Primo Bacchio last time put Snow Lantern firmly in a place and just wazzed in at York. Very, very, very impressive. Look to Group 1, Group 2 horse in the making for definite. I think that was a listed race. So yeah, she's got every chance. She's about 4-1 though. The Primo, which is short enough.
Yeah.
This could be. You can say that this about a few of the races, but this coronation could be the race of the week. There's no question about that. I mean, you've got Aidan's on about sending the 1,000 guineas winner and the Irish 1,000 guineas winner, which he trained both individuals. He's looking to send both of them to this. Pretty gorgeous. A horse I've banged on about before could run in this.
Thoughts on Pretty Gorgeous if she turned up?
I mean we're being weathermen, aren't we, in advance? But yeah, if it's fast ground, you would have to have a question mark over it. But yeah, if there's any rain about, then fair enough. I mean, you'd have to be. I mean, obviously, I backed her in the Irish 1,000 guineas. I didn't put her up on here, but obviously, I backed her. I had to. But there's no question she was disappointing. But she was drawn wide on a wing. The ground was terrible. I know she likes soft ground, but that was extreme. So I don't know. Well, at this stage, I'd happily leave Pretty Gorgeous alone. If I look at the race at final decks, I wouldn't have a problem with letting her run without my money on again. But that's not to say I won't back her. But the one horse I did put up last time for this race, I was hoping it wouldn't quite be this competitive when I did. But alcohol free, I know I did a big U-turn by man that I was ridiculed by you for. But I just think, to reiterate, I'm going to repeat myself a little bit. And like I say, it is a lot more competitive than I would have liked for alcohol free. She's less attractive now given the potential field. But I just thought last time at Newmarket, she was ridden to get the trip. She was ridden with that in mind. She was a questionable stayer. That's why I was dead against her. But we've got to remember, she was backed into 5-2 joint favouritism for the 1,000 guineas, despite the question marks over her staying the trips by me and many others, and connections and jockey, because I think that the jockey clearly ridden her to get the trip. Now, you could argue that she did get the trip well enough. Obviously not well enough to win, but got the trip well enough. So my point is that I think this time they're going to go into this race at Ascot, which should be an easier mile. It's a different mile because they're going round a bend, so that helps. But it is a stiff finish at Ascot. Don't let anyone there tell you otherwise. So it's going to take some getting, but I think that they can ride her with more confidence in knowing that they can be 90% sure she stays the mile trip following that Newmarket run. So like I say, I think they should have more confidence this time in riding her. And the 1,000 guineas, she raced towards the stand side. Not detached, but similar comments to Dragon Symbol, really. On her own a little bit. Had a bit of cover on one side, but was on her own a little bit. And she was possibly, I'm not adamant on this, but she was possibly the last one off the bridle in the 1,000 guineas and stayed on quite nicely. Well, when I say stayed on, made some nice late progress down into the dip and out of the dip. I thought it was really quite a promising run, really, from a questionable stayer. She's only entered in this race next week. She could have had options even in the Commonwealth Cup, but I think she's only entered in this race, so they're going for it. Yeah, I think she's interesting, but like I say, my enthusiasm has waned given the opposition. Snow Lantern remains a fascinating contender, just purely on breedings. I mean, Sky Lantern by Frankel, but ran really free last time at York, very, very free. Didn't settle at all. A race in which Primo Bacchio won, as they've mentioned in the chat. Richie won really impressively. So, yeah, really could turn into the best race of the week, the coronation, if they stand the ground.
Yeah, and just a couple more in the chat. Andy Jones says Belosa in the jersey is a good thing if she goes.
I think that's the Godolphin horse. I think I've not been into too much detail on that yet. Let me get the market up. While I get the market up, I'll answer the next question. Patrick Sarsfield in the Wolferton. Look, this Wolferton as a listed race over 10 furlongs. It's usually the best listed race in the calendar. They're usually like horses that have been close in Group 2s, Group 3s, sometimes even Group 1. I was a little bit disappointed by the field this year in the Wolferton. But yeah, as always, Pieman, I try and take on the favourite. I was scrolling down. Couldn't really find anything. So I did come back, as Brendan said, I've come back to Patrick Sarsfield and see no reason why, I wouldn't put anyone off backing him, put it that way.
Mm.
The other one was
Lee Jones says of Snow Lantern, she needs to front run and use her stride.
Yeah, that's quite possible. Snow Lantern might want further. She might want further. But apparently, again, I was listening to that at the Racers podcast last night. Apparently, Connections, i.e. the trainer, wasn't too disappointed with. Well, sorry, that's the wrong word. He was pleasantly surprised how close Snow Lantern finished behind Premio Becco at York. Given how badly she pulled, he thought that she might well be last. But she actually battled on towards the finish. So she just remains a fascinating runner. She'll be one of those. She'll probably go off too short again. Given the breeding and stuff like that. But yeah, you won't want to back her with confidence. Something different needs to happen. Either like Lee says, out front using the stride, a further trip. I don't know, some drop down in level a bit. I mean, this is going to be a Group 1. She's not proven it anywhere near that level as yet. She's only won at that maiden at Newbury very impressively, and then got beaten a listed race last time. So plenty of questions to ask. I can't find the jersey on Racing Post, so I will get it up on Odds Checker.
You might struggle to find it on there as well, actually.
Right, yeah. Forget the jersey. Then.
But of Belosa, it's Jane Chapel-Hyam trained, I believe. Andy Jones has put in the chat box and does hold an entry in the coronation as well, I think. Yeah.
There's only one race, Pieman, that I've got left really in detail, unless someone can throw us a bone or a question before we depart.
Go on to your last race, and if any questions do come in, this is your 5-minute wrap-up warning, so last questions if you do have any.
Yeah, so it's on Tuesday. There's 3 Group 1s on Tuesday. We've covered 2 of them, plus the Coventry, which is a Group 2. So the feature, as in it's ran at the feature time, 4:20, the St James's Palace. This market is going to change for definite. There's 15 in there now, but there's a handful of them that might not run for whatever reason. But even if they do, I'm going to treat them as if they are running. There's plenty of question marks, Pieman. I've got one line on basically the whole field, so I'll run you through quickly while the comments pour in. Poetic Flair's the 3 or 4 to 1 favourite. Won the 2,000 guineas at Newmarket. Brilliant sound performance. This will be his 4th Group 1 in 6 weeks, 2 of which have been on heavy ground. I think it's a big ask. He won at Newmarket, sound as a pound, no worries. Then he went to the French Guineas on very soft ground, got beat. Then he went to the Curragh on bad, heavy, torrential ground and got beat a short head by McSweeney. So yeah, happy to take on. Mustardaf is the second favourite, about 4 to 1, trained by Gosden, listed winner at Sandown last time. I've watched that replay a few times today, and I really don't know what to make of it. Either it was workmanlike, i.e. not good enough in a listed race, not good enough to step up to this, or he won with a bit in hand. I don't really know. You can read that either way. He was either a shade comfortable or he took too long to get going and didn't really beat much. So I'm not sure. 4 to 1's definitely too short given what he's achieved on the track. And I think he might be better further in time. Big step up required for him. I can't even bloody say his name. Mustardef beat Highland Avenue at Sandown that day. But Highland Avenue did carry £3 more, so he also requires a big step to winning this because, like I say, this is a listed race. Lucky Vega was placed in, I think he was 3rd in the 2,000 guineas at Newmarket. I didn't think he would stay. He did, so fair play to him. But interestingly, he's set to be retired after this race. He's going to be packed off to Australia. He's going to study in Australia, like literally in a week. He'll be on his way there. So I'm still not sure if he stays well enough to win this at this level. Like I say, it is a stiff finish at Ascot. Battleground is interesting. I think there's two of interest. Battleground's one of them. He was backed into favouritism from pretty much nowhere in the 2,000 guineas. He was as big as 14 on the exchange on the Thursday, and he went off 9-2 favourite for the guineas. Frankie rode him. He was second choice for the O'Brien yard. He only finished 13 of 14. That was disappointing, obviously. Obviously, it was disappointing. Jockey and trainer blamed the Newmarket track or dip. Didn't like it, apparently. It is a leap of faith to back him, but I think Battleground has less question marks than others. I think he'll like this track more than what he liked, definitely more than what he liked Newmarket and Goodwood and the likes of where he had form last year. He's interesting, 7-1. Chindit, I initially had him down as an eye catcher in the Guineas, and even within 24 hours, I've texted a couple of people and said I'm looking at backing Chindit. Not anymore. I've gone off him. I've watched the Guineas today with fresh eyes. He was one of the first off the bridle, then mostly stayed on past beaten horses in the dip. He caught the eye a little bit, but he's going past like 50-1 shot Naval Crown, and Wembley was going backwards and others like that. I think Chindit wants further than a mile, won't be backing him. Wembley, he's 10-1, might not run, but he was last and nearly last in Guineas on both sides of the Irish Sea this season. Not good, no way near good enough. I'm not sure where they go with him from here, to be honest. Couldn't back him with any confidence. Thunder Moon was last in the 2,000 Guineas. Bad, pretty bad. Possibly more of a sprinter for me. I just don't. The reports are that he's just simply not a big. He looked quite small in the paddock at Newmarket, and more of a 2-year-old. The last one I'm going to touch on, and one that I like. Yes, Lee Jones can take credit for this, for pointing me in this direction. Maximal is 16-1. Now, Pie Man, you know that independently,
20 in a place, Maximal.
I was all this time a week ago for Epsom. I was all over Maximal. As you know, I sent you the notes.
Remember
I was all over him. He was a non-runner.
Ryan Moore was getting down to a low weight for it, yeah.
Yeah, I was all over him. I thought he was. I think he could be backed at 3-1. He was shorter at time of withdrawal. He arrives coming the non-classic route, if you like. I would have been all over him for Epsom, as I said. Big step up required, but I think a fast ground mile at Ascot looks right down his alley. He's by Galileo. He's out of a half sister to Frankel, so he's not badly bred, Pie Man. If he's still in the mix I won't back him now, and we're only a few days away. But if he's still in the mix when the decks are out Sunday and he's 10-12-1, I'd definitely be interested in him. Definitely.
There you go. Then Maximal one to keep an eye on at a massive price. There is a bit of 20 in a place. Not sure if that's clicking through a muffled to check a race. 16 general, but another very interesting race, and it's been an enjoyable 45 or so minutes talking through the Ascot cards. Thanks very much for your interaction in the chat as well. Just running through those last comments, Brendan Smith correctly predicting your positive tilt towards Battleground, shall we say. Lee Jones thinks Highland Avenue wants better ground and he'll get it. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, he is definitely going to get the better ground. But like I say, he's got form. He's got form in listed races only. Now I know I'm saying this given on the back of Maximal, but if you look at the likes of Poetic Flares ran in four Group 1s three Group 1s this season already. A lot of these have got Group 1 form. Lucky Vega's got Group 1 form. Wembley's a Group 1 winner. Battleground's got Group 1 form. Thunder Moon's a Group 1 winner. So it is a big step up from listed class for the likes of Mooster Def and Highland Avenue. And I'm saying that as a man that is backing Maximal, who is yet to even win a listed race. Never. So, but he's a bigger price. Like I say, it's all price related. I think I would have Maximal. He's got an RPR of 124 adjusted. Mustar Def's got 121, and Highland Real's got 123. But yet they're 4-1 and 6-1, and you can back Maximal at 16-1. I just, it's all about the price, Pie Man. I say that to you all the time.
Yeah, it certainly is, and Maximal there 20-1. Definitely want to keep an eye on. Thanks for all your comments in the chat, and it's been really enjoyable to hear what you guys are thinking as well on Royal Ascot. Obviously, the action getting underway next week. We probably will have some content at some point in the week, even if it's just another Thursday night recap. Might be some more going on, but it is quite a busy week on the old sporting front. Obviously, we've got the European Championship football getting underway. Remains to be seen if there'll be any content for that, but wouldn't rule it out later in the tournament. Potentially something from my end. We have the US Open Golf Major. I'm sure I'll be offering some questionable insight on that. Darts is back. We've got 4 Super Series events. These are the kind of events where we plucked a 100-1 each way runner-up and a 50-1 each way runner-up earlier in the year. So we'll try to continue that form on. Plenty coming your way over on doubles and trebles. As always, thanks very much for watching. Appreciate all the comments, and we hope to hear from you again very soon. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you, everybody. Just had a text from the gaffer. Long half an hour with this.